Hi guys, this is Erica from Gokce Capital. Now before I begin, be sure to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. In 2011, a Dallas man claimed to have acquired a mansion for $16. The home was not acquired through a tax sale or as a gift. No, Ken Robinson moved into an abandoned home and made a claim on it purely by filing a $16 affidavit of adverse possession. In his affidavit, he promised to pay all taxes and homeowners association fees. Very quickly, he became a celebrity and even started a small cottage industry of would-be adverse possessors. But is it really so easy? We'll find out what happened at the end of this video. First, we are going to cover the top things you should know about adverse possession. Number 1, adverse possession is a legal doctrine that allows you or someone to claim property owned by another person. For example, if a neighbor relied on a faulty property description in their deed when building a fence on your property, then they may have a claim to adverse possession depending on how long the fence has been in place. Number 2, now if this sounds a little frightening to you, don't worry. Adverse possession is generally not a way for a trespasser to come in and steal your property. Philosophically, its main purpose is to reward individuals who are making productive use of forgotten or abandoned land. In addition, it's also a way to balance out competing claims when there is a legitimate question or confusion over ownership. Number 3, there is generally a 4-factor test that courts look at when evaluating adverse possession claims. First of all, the claim must be hostile. Now, this does not mean that there is a contentious relationship between the two parties. Rather, it generally means that the person making the adverse possession claim does not have permission on the part of the legal property owner to use the land. Every state has a slightly different way of defining hostile possession. Therefore, it's always important with adverse possession to speak with a local real estate attorney in order to determine how adverse possession claims are defined in your state. The second factor that courts look at is whether the adverse possession is actual. That is to say that the adverse possessor is actually using the property in question. The third factor is that the use is open and notorious. Again, this sounds a bit nefarious, but really it just means that the possession is obvious, especially to the legal property owner. And the fourth factor is that the possession has been exclusive and continuous for a certain time period. And this is the most difficult factor in adverse possession claims, because the possessor must have been using the property for a very long period of time. The exact time frame depends on the state. In some states it's 20 years, in some states it's a little bit less, but in every case it must be for a fairly long period of time, and that use must be continuous for that period of time. Number 4, it's important to understand that adverse possession alone does not result in the transfer of legal title. If you meet the statutory requirements for adverse possession, you can make a claim on the property, but in order for that claim to become legal ownership, the adverse possessor must initiate a quiet title action. Number 5, adverse possession cases end up in court when two neighbors are not able to resolve boundary or ownership disputes on their own. In these instances, a suit is brought to court, and either party may initiate the suit. If it's the adverse possessor or trespasser, then it generally would be a quiet title suit. Conversely, the legal property owner may sue a trespasser or adverse possessor with the goal of having them ejected from the property. But again, as with any legal matter, always speak with a local real estate attorney to understand the process in your jurisdiction. Number 6. Now, if you are a property owner and this video has made you very nervous about adverse possession, know that there are a few things you can do to prevent adverse possession claims on your land. First of all, before you buy, order a title search to look for issues such as encroachments or errors in deeds that may result in competing ownership claims. Once you own the property, if you are concerned about trespassers, post no trespassing signs and block entrances to your land. If someone is already using your land or would like to use your property, make sure that you give them written permission. Remember, for an adverse possession claim to be made, generally the adverse possessor cannot have permission from the property owner. You can even offer to rent out the property to the trespasser or adverse possessor. Should you find that you have an issue with a trespasser, you can always call the police or, in a worst-case scenario, file a lawsuit to eject them. Showing that you are making efforts to claim your property will go a long way to help preventing adverse possession claims as well. However, having said all of this, as I mentioned earlier, every state has slightly different rules around adverse possession, so if you're concerned about someone being able to make an adverse possession claim on your land, be sure to speak with a local real estate attorney. But let's return to the case of Ken Robinson and the home that he attempted to acquire for $16. For a brief moment, Ken Robinson became famous, even writing an online manual on his method and speaking at a local school of law. Soon enough, Dallas and the neighboring counties saw a rash of adverse possession claims. Unfortunately, a number of these claims were on occupied homes, including one man who moved into a couple's home while they were staying in Houston for medical treatment. Torrance County alone indicted 8 people on charges of burglary and theft, while the DA's office instructed the county clerk to stop accepting adverse possession affidavits. Ken Robinson himself was ordered to vacate the home 8 months after he moved in, when Bank of America foreclosed on the home and evicted him. Things have since calmed down, but it is worth noting that, while extreme, the Dallas adverse possession craze did represent a larger cultural moment. This was a time when many homes, sometimes whole neighborhoods, were suddenly emptied of occupants in the wake of the Great Recession, leaving the homes idle while banks worked their way through the long process of foreclosure and sale. In this context, there were some who warmed to the notion that a responsible squatter would be a better owner of these homes than a bank, whose sometimes unethical lending practices may have contributed to the vacancy in the first place. Claims on land ownership on the basis of beneficial use are nothing new. In fact, the original colonists in the United States laid claim to the land in part based on the notion that those who improved the land had the greater right to it. But one only has to look at U.S. history to consider how destructive this notion can be, and no one wants this same logic used against them. Which is why, of course, an adverse possession case is not so easy as filing a $16 affidavit. Now, do you have any adverse possession stories? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? You're going to love our Gokce Land Due Diligence program. We'll make you a land due diligence expert in just 7 days. Check it out at gokcecapital.com/glad. And while you're at our website, don't forget to check out our $1 down properties at gokcecapital.com/listings. And finally, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email, call, or text, and we will respond as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and more to come.